How you doing? Jean-Paul here. Welcome here at another video at reflection time. And in today's video, let's take things up a notch a little bit for our spiritual development, and let's talk about the new era that is around the corner, the time of the Atlantean energy. But before we do that, let's first take a step back and let's really reflect on where we are currently at, which is far away from a place that feels natural to us, as humanity is really currently at a stage where we are dealing with where we're all dealing with our ego. There's like a very thick layer in our collective that's very heavy, very dense, very fear based, and it creates a lot of separation. We currently experience it in every kind of country, in every nation, political, economic. I mean, we here in the UK, we got the Brexit. I mean, we are in December 21st, the 31st of December. Still no deals made with the European Union. So from that time, the UK will be probably on its own, and God knows what's going to happen with this country. Supplies, everything. Free movement is going to be more challenging, more frustrating for a lot of European citizens like myself. I mean, you got to be lucky if you have a European passport, but you're going to be treated differently. But also, a British citizen, a lot of British people, elderly people, they like to go to Spain, Portugal for the summer breaks and everything. And they used to be called expats, and now they're being called migrants. So what I want to say with that is that the media and whatever, they really use a kind of language that almost feels a bit like gaslighting. They use it in such a way is that it makes our skin crawl. They use it in a way that it creates not just fear, but also shame and guilt of us being in the way we are and doing what we are doing. And it creates so much of separation, because I'm just really taking this example because the British people are in Spain and not here in Britain. And the funny, ironic thing is that these were the people who actually voted for the Brexit, and now they are being called migrants. And when it comes to this pandemic thing that's currently going on, the latest news I got is that the UK is in a very big rush to get this vaccine rolled out. European Union is not even talking about it. I mean, they're talking about it, but the UK seems to be much further in this process. So yeah, big rush, of course. Actually, we just came out of another lockdown, but now, as we were in this lockdown, supposedly it should have improved, but still we are in this. Countries are divided in multiple tiers, and tier 3 is like red alarm, tier 2 is like medium high alert, such as London and most of the country, with specific kind of rules we must follow, and if we don't follow these rules you get basically arrested. So that's really still going on. Personally, I don't really know anyone. Of course there are stories from people who are suffering from this virus, but I don't really want to go into this right now. But what I wanted to say about this vaccine is that they say we don't want to make it mandatory, but you already heard the messages like it's not mandatory, but if you want to use specific kind of services you need to have a vaccine, or you need to have a certificate in your passport that proves that you had the vaccine, otherwise you're not allowed to travel. So it is mandatory then. It is just like another form of manipulation that is currently going on of their control-based system that we're moving into. So if I talk about, are you ready for the new spiritual evolution, new spiritual step up, I think you can agree, like, yeah, but wait a minute. The reality is that we're moving into a bloody control-based system, and you're completely right about that. But at the same time, there's a parallel reality that goes with it as well. That's what I want to focus on, because if I focus on this control-based, fear-based, egocentric system, society that is collapsing, there's gotta be so much of resistance, because the majority of the population, they want to fight for what they know, and they want to resist this unknown that feels like much of our freedom will be taken away. Our freedom of speech, our freedom of free will, our freedom of travel, freedom of free movements. Anyway, the list goes on and on and on. We want to fight for that, and of course it is our right, and I totally agree. But there is a new reality lining up with this, which for us as high sensitives, empaths, light workers, starseeds, feels more natural. It feels much more natural to focus on that. So now we got it out of the way, I think that we are not quite there yet. Matter of fact, much worse can actually still happen before it even gets better in this world we are most familiar with. And then there's this other world we are still a bit unfamiliar with. Yet some of us, we have received reminders that humanity actually would be better living in a more advanced civilization. And on this planet there has been other civilizations that were advanced in areas that is still a little bit unfamiliar to us. And of course we're talking about the Atlanteans. Now you gotta be a little bit open-minded for this, because science still cannot really seems to prove the real scientific proof of the existence of Atlantis. And why that is, of course, is also what I will share with you, because it has been like more than 15,000 years ago. I mean, how are you supposed to dig up any kind of scientific proof? But the more spiritual aligned people, they intuitively know something different is going on. Let's go this way. Something different is going on. The first one that we must really put on our agenda is the 21st of December 2020. It's another Saltage. Saltage is when the northern hemisphere, the planet's making a tilt, so the northern hemisphere is getting the shortest day of the year, while the southern part of the planet, South America and everything, they get the longest day. But this is also a very important energetic shift. I mean, we all know about December 2012. I don't know what it meant for you. For me it meant crisis. And that crisis caused that I went into my spiritual development, healing and seeking for answers. Which has been going on for the last 8 years. You could say that was the age of the Pisces. As I'm Pisces from Zodiac, I could say that this was the age where perhaps we were trying to explore different energies, and really exploring different kind of perspectives on life, because we started to realize like what we have been doing ain't really working, or it becomes a little bit outdated. So we seek for multiple realities, multiple perspectives, because that's really what it is. The entire universe exists out of infinite perspectives, to see things from a different angle. Now, we, as human beings with an ego, we want to fight for every perspective we have, because we believe that is the only truth that exists. I mean, for example, I could incarnate as a criminal, as a crook, and I believe this is what I must fight for in order to survive. Or I can incarnate as a police officer and fight against that idea. Or I can incarnate as a politician and come up with my own ideas of how I think a society should be. Maybe against the free will of others. So my agenda is getting on the forefront of something. And of course the list can go on and on and on and on. But there is no right or wrong answer. There's always like something like, hey, that's an interesting perspective. What can we withdraw out of that? What kind of insight or lesson can we withdraw out of that? The same with the entire crisis, global crisis we're currently in. There are also multiple perspectives out of that. Like, what is that we want to get out of that? What would you really like to learn from that? Of course, I started off like there's so much separation going on. This duality is part of the third dimension, and the third dimension is a very important one, because I keep saying this, duality is needed in order to experience unity. Because if you would be like in the 9th dimension, you cannot experience duality and separation, but you can also not experience unity, because you are in the unity, if that kind of makes sense. So that's why so many souls we want to incarnate at the third dimensional plane, so we can experience different things that can give us reminders of our divine blueprint. Anyway, coming back to the stage of the Atlantean consciousness, because this is really what we're talking about. I mean, we're not talking about building Atlantean cities, although this might be a good idea. Living in circles. I mean, God knows what else is on the planning with the global warming and weather and everything. Perhaps we start to realize like there's no more need living in big cities, and everybody is going to live thinner in smaller communities, closer to nature. This could be a big part of it as well. Closer to nature, where people feel more connected with each other, people working together on a collective goal, part of this community, instead of how we are currently living, everybody on their own separated rat race trying to survive, and everybody is on their own, working on their own agenda. Okay, this looks pretty wet. Hope I'm not getting any wet feet. I really need to go and grab my hiking books in order to start walking here. There we go. And you know, that's what I'm saying, like most major cities, they don't feel like a natural habitat for us. I mean, we try to think it is, but it isn't. They are harsh, they are aggressive, and most people, they're actually longing for living closer to nature, because that feels much natural to us. People are more open, more kind, they feel more connected and everything. Atlantean cities were like big circles because they could do their work that they were focused on, and I will talk about that. Atlanteans didn't really start off as advanced civilization. They were just like people of that time, just people doing the thing. Also, they were actually the first people that looked closest to our race, the human race. Back then, loads of different civilizations and races existed on this planet. But eventually we had races that were like engineers, DNA engineers. They were all about genetics, and they created the code as a way to experiment a race that could live on this planet, but also has the ability to communicate with the stars, that could be able to download frequencies to open up the energy fields, the grid fields, the vortexes, the chakras of the planet, and align that with different solar systems. So this was really what Atlanteans were about. They were about opening up, or at least finding the ley lines of this planet, finding the ley lines that could lead to the chakras of the planet, the vortexes, activate these vortexes, so the different galactic beings, star beings, Arcturian, Pleiades, Orions, Sirians, and other galactic beings, the White Brotherhoods and other ascended beings, will be able to communicate with this planet, so we could step up in our evolution. And the thing with Atlantis is they also encountered other civilizations. Lemurians were located in a region in the Indian Ocean. They were between different islands, but they were also protectors, the warriors from the Lemurians, because the real Lemurians, they were not called Lemurians, but they were like angels of the sea. They were the librarians of the water, to contain the information of the water. Lemurians, but more the warriors division of that, they were the protectors of the chakra located in Nepal, Tibet, Himalayan mountains. And eventually Atlanteans, as they used their technology of sound to locate the ley lines of the planet, they wanted to activate the chakra on the Himalaya. But Lemurians had other ideas about that. And eventually also that turned out into a power control battle, a war, very big war. But the technology being used at that time caused like a complete wipe out of that civilization. Technology related to sound frequency. They use sound frequency to dematerialize everything. Now, of course, you could say, well, listen, I think you have been watching too many documentaries. And you're right about that, because this information is actually coming from the program called Initiation, which can be found on Gaia. And I already spoke a little bit about it in my video about insecurity and things. But however, when I watched that, for me it resonated deeply. I really felt that deeply. It was like a reminder for me. Like, yeah, bloody hell, man. So yeah, I will leave a link below. You can check it out for yourself if you resonate with this information and you want to know more. You want the whole full story a little bit of a background of it. But I would not have believed it if I have not experienced my own mystical events. I had quite a few of them. I've listed them out on my website, so if you want to know more about them, then you can go and check it out. Because the thing is, I'm a starseed in a human body, in a human vessel. Now, it means is that I also have my human things to deal with, my human ego I'm battling. Because if I really look at the work I came here to do, my ego will tell me like, but that work is not from this world. You're nuts, you're crazy. You're meant to be like this. So this entire society conditioning is going to work against me. And that's my number one struggle. Because during my mystical experiences and my shamanic healing work and all of that, I went into these deep journeys, and I started to see these visions that I was part of that civilization, part of my soul, my blueprints. It was part of the DNA engineering, working on DNA activations, working on planetary healing, working on re-establishing the vortexes of this planet. And that's why I think I feel so connected to nature and not so much indoors, because probably I'm meant to travel to all these different spots to work there. But obviously I am in my own way of doing such work. I mean, what kind of work is that anyway? How am I going to put that on your business card? It's just nuts, isn't it? But then you start to realize, like, everything that you're trying to do my entire life, because most of my entire life I didn't know about this, but my entire life I've been trying to mold myself into a society that I'm not part of. I do not fall part of, and I just really don't want to be part of that, because I feel like it's way too primitive. It's way too primitive for my liking, doing what we are doing in the way we do it. But you also cannot really put your hand or your finger on it like how it actually should be. And even if you think like this is how it should be, you think by yourself, doesn't really sound very realistic. No bloody way it's going to be that way. Anyway, the whole point is that currently we live like in these two parallel universes, you could say, these two parallel realities that goes really hand in hand together. One is a reality that is slowly fading away, collapsing. We're going for so much separation, and people fight against it and protest and whatnot. It's going to be a lot of social unrest, political, economic, social, list goes on. Not to name, of course, climate change and all of that. So we are not quite there yet, but at the same time there's also new energy awaiting for us, for those who are willing to fine-tune to this energy. It's not just for the select few, like, oh, it's only for the light workers, oh, it's only for the starseeds, oh, it's only for those who have memories from Atlantis, Lemurian, whatever advanced civilization you feel you were part of. It is for those who show willingness to learn about this, is to attune themselves to them, like, this is what resonates for me, this is what feels right for me as a way of the perspective I want to have of reality, what feels real for me. Does this world we think is so real, does that feel real to us? Or does this perspective feel more real to us? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Anyway, I'm going to leave it for now because this is so much we can talk about, and I just really wanted to talk about this without all the fancy b-rolls and everything. This last week I felt like a lot of heaviness. I felt a type of heaviness where I felt like not doing anything at all. I felt heaviness like I do not want to participate in anything anymore. I'm just done. I'm done with everything. There is also an emotional charge underneath it, which I probably will talk about in one of my next videos. But to stay on topic, 21st of December 2020, I've made some plans for that. I want to go somewhere. So if you want to know where it is, then you know what to do. Subscribe to the channel to receive that updates. Anyway, checking out for now. Take care for now. Bye bye.